that person out there in the I world of real estate, in that box, in the I box, if you will, all by themselves with all those limitations. They break out of the I box, connect with all the other I's out there, people that are in the I world, and you come together, and what does that create? We. It creates a team. And of course, team is nothing more than an acronym for together, everyone achieves more. Would you agree that a group of people, a team of people, can do more than just what one person can? I think so. And that's what Next Stage is all about, creating that team opportunity so you're no longer limited to just your own personal production. You're no longer limited to what you can do in your local marketplace. That's the great opportunity that we bring. Next Stage Realty agents build teams of agents, each one building a team of their own. And we see here how that works. There is no limit. This person goes and gets 4 of their friends to join them. They go and get 3 or 4 of their friends. They get 3 or 4 of their friends. Through care and leadership, your team grows geometrically. So with Next Stage, you can build a business, not just do business. Now let's understand the difference there. When I travel around the country and talk to agents, I like to ask them, how's your business doing? And most of them say about the same thing. Well, as you know, it's been tough out there, but the good news is I'm starting to build my business again. And I say, well, that's great, but let me ask you a question. If you stop producing today, how long does your income continue? And they kind of look at me as if I have 2 heads, because everybody knows if you're not producing, you don't make any income, right? Then I submit to those people, as well as you this evening, if that's the case where you stop producing, your income stops, you haven't built a business, you're just doing more business than you did previously. See, if you have truly built a business like Henry Ford, like Bill Gates, and so many other entrepreneurs out there, when you stop producing, your income continues. And that's the beauty of the Next Stage system. Let's kind of work through a little example here. We've created this fictitious character, this fictitious real estate agent called Carol, okay? And it's kind of a fun way to show you exactly how this works. So we're going to meet Carol. Carol's been in the business for 6 years and has done well, averaging 18 closed transaction sides a month over that period. Now, 18 sides, excuse me, that's 18 sides a year, not a month. That would be pretty strong production, wouldn't it? 18 sides a year. Now, that would be 1.5 sides a month, right? On average, 1.5 sides a month. Now, in this marketplace, I assume it's not a lot different than other marketplaces. That would make Carol not a top producer, but certainly a good, sound producer, right? I mean, she's the kind that every real estate broker would like to have 100 of, right? Okay, she goes on and says she loves selling real estate but wanted to build a passive ongoing income in addition to her personal production, so Next Stage Realty looked like an excellent choice for her. So what we're going to do is follow along as Carol kind of thinks through the process of comparing Next Stage with her present company. I want to look at my income potential at Next Stage Realty versus what it might be somewhere else, Carol thought. First, let's assume all of my transactions have a $200,000 sale price with a 6% total real estate commission. That's about average for me. Now I'm going to stop right there because you see there's an asterisk after the 6% commission. Let's make sure that we understand exactly what this is. This is for example purposes only. We're not suggesting that that's any kind of a going rate. As a matter of fact, we all know that real estate commissions are negotiable, aren't they? We could have used 7 or 8 or 10%. We could have used 2 or 3%. We chose 6% because Carol, our fictitious agent, says that's about what her average is. Okay? So just so we clear everything up. Let's also assume, she says, that I'm going to continue to close about 1.5 transaction sides a month. So she's saying that she thinks that her current level of production will continue. There's no reason for that not to be the same as it's been. Now, she says, I suppose I could work for a traditional broker on an 80% split, and I think in many marketplaces, maybe not this marketplace, but in many marketplaces, certainly if she's doing 1.5 closed sides a month, she could get 80%. So we're going to say, for this example, where she's going to get that 80% commission split. Maybe that won't work for you in this market. But again, this is an example. Closing 1.5 sides per month would mean I'd make about $7,200 a month, assuming there are no deductions for franchise administration or transaction fees. Now that last is a very important thing because the reality is today there almost always are deductions. Certainly if you're with a franchise, there's going to be a deduction for the franchise fees, correct? On top of that, many times there's a transaction fee, an administrative fee, all kinds of things like that. But Carol says, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the Brand X broker and assume that there are no fees. Okay, it's a straight 80%, so I'm getting 80% of the gross commission. And in that case, she would make $7,200. Now notice how we depicted the $7,200. The $7,200 looks a lot like a check, doesn't it? Because that's usually what the agents get when they have a closing. They get a check for their commission. Now my question to you is, when would Carol get her next check? Right, when she has the next closing, right? It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be next month, it could be 3 months from now. But whenever Carol has her next closing is when she gets her next check. So let's remember that. We're going to come back to that, okay? So she goes on and says, or I could join Next Stage Realty, assuming I qualified for an 80% commission split, which again, you have to qualify for that. The same 1.5 closed sides would produce $6,432. Whoa, now wait a minute, Dave. I know what all of you are thinking. Why in the world would Carol want to take almost $800 less for doing the same amount of production? Well, remember, let's put it in perspective. We said Carol was assuming there were no deductions from her commission with Brand X Realty, which in today's world probably isn't very realistic. But Carol says we're going to give the benefit of the doubt to Brand X. So why in the world then would she consider almost $800 less? Well, notice when she got paid, we gave Carol a check, right? And we said the next check comes when? Right, when she has the next closing. With Next Stage Realty, we've created what looks like a passbook account. We call it, as a matter of fact, real estate passbook account. And that kind of indicates that there might be additional deposits into that account, right? Right. So let's follow along and see what this means to Carol. She says, if I was able to get just 3 of my associates to join me at Next Stage Realty, and let's assume they're averaging just 3/4 of a closed side a month. 3/4 of a closed side a month would mean 9 a year, right? Their production would generate an additional $904 in monthly sales bonuses. See, remember with Next Stage, she's in that I world of real estate, and she's not limited to just what she can produce personally. Now, there's another deposit into her passbook account of $900, bringing her total up to now more than what she is making at Brand X Realty when she limits her income to just what she can produce personally. But the good news is it doesn't stop there, does it? She goes on and says, if I helped each of those 3 agents bring in 3 more of their own, averaging, say, 2/3 of a closed side a month, that would be 8 a year. That would create an additional $1,212 in sales bonuses. There's another deposit into her passbook account, bringing her total up now to over $8,500, far exceeding what she can do on her own personal production. So you see, she's multiplying her effort, she's building a business, so her income is not limited to just what she can do personally. She goes on and says, if each of that last group of agents were to bring in just 2 more agents of their own, averaging just 6 closed sides a year, 1 every other month, that would add another $1,085 in sales bonuses. There's another deposit into her passbook account, bringing her total up now to over $9,600, $2,400 more than at Brand X Realty on an 80% commission split, even if she's keeping the whole thing. Now, she goes on and says, I think I'll consider the next 3 generations to be gravy. See, we pay 6 generations, and you can see on the chart, those that you bring in personally are your first generation, kind of like your children, and the ones they bring in are your second generation, like your grandchildren, etc., etc. So she says, I'm not even going to count those last 3 generations because I'll just consider those to be gravy. But with just a little bit of team building, I could make 33% more at Next Stage Realty than at Brand X because she's multiplied her efforts. She's no longer limited her own income to her own personal production. That's the difference. She's building a business, not just doing business. Now, her assumptions may or may not be true for you, but what we've done is we've created an income calculator on our website, www.nextstageadvantage.com, and you're welcome to go onto that website and play around with it, put your numbers in. These numbers may or may not be the same for you, so you can put your own numbers in and see exactly how this opportunity could work for you. But what we're going to do with this group here this evening is we're going to kind of go through an example. I'm going to pull up that income calculator, and we're going to go through and see how it would work for you. We'll let you give me the numbers, and I'll put the numbers in the income calculator, and we'll calculate and see exactly what it could be for you. So here you see our income calculator, and what I'm going to do is ask you to give me the numbers to put in here that fit your marketplace. And by the way, those of you that are with me on video, you can kind of go online to nextstageadvantage.com and do your own, put your own numbers in here to see exactly how this will work for your marketplace as well. But let's start out first of all, how many sides does the average agent close per month in this marketplace? What would you say? What would you say the average number of sides closed per agent in this marketplace is per month? One? Well, is that realistic? Even now, probably a little bit high, right? 0.75, that would be 9 a year. Okay, let's put 0.75 in, which would be 9 a year, okay? Now, the next question is, what is the average gross commission per closed side? Now, the gross commission is the total amount of commission that is generated from the transaction that comes into the office, not what the agent gets paid, because we don't know if the agent is on a 50% or a 70% or a 90% split, right? So the total amount of commission dollars coming in, as an example, if you have a $20,000 commission, that's the gross, regardless of how it's divided up with the agents. So what's the average gross commission per closed side? If it's a $15,000 total commission, it would be $7,500 per side, right? Okay. What would you say is about 5,000? Okay, 5,000 works. So let's put 5,000 in there. Okay. Now the next part is where you can put your own personal income numbers in there and calculate how much you would make on your personal production. For the sake of this example, we're going to skip that and go down and just focus on the team production, how much you would earn in sales bonuses from the production of the team that you create. The first question is, how many agents do you think that you can recruit, that you could bring in to the company yourself? Now, we have to put a time frame on that, right? So let's say a year from now, let's say that all of us decided to join Next Stage Realty, and a year from now we all came back together and we compared notes. How many agents realistically do you think that you would have brought in personally, your first generation agents, to your team in the first year? 7? 5? I'll tell you what, let's back that down to 3. Just 3 agents, 1 every 4 months, okay? Over the first year, that would be 3 agents. Now, if you do that, that's going to generate $747 in monthly income to you. That annualizes out to a little bit under $9,000, about $9,000, okay? So that's not great. Nobody's going to turn somersaults over it, but an extra $9,000 would be pretty nice, wouldn't it? Who wouldn't like to have an extra $9,000 a year in this market? But the reality is, does it stop there? Is it just $9,000? No, because what do those agents want to do that you bring in? Don't they want to do the same thing? Don't they want to build their business and help others join Next Stage? So let's go back up now and look at, say, how many agents do you think each of those agents could bring in? Those 3 agents that you bring in, how many could they bring in with our help? Because we all want to help, right? Okay, well, let's say they bring in 3 as well. Okay, so let's put 3 in there. Now we see that our income jumps up to over $1,800 a month, $22,400 a year.